Hello and welcome to my video today. This is a kind of troubleshooting video of sorts. I have been following the message boards, and if you have any issues with your lights, especially the turn signals not working on your Fisker Ocean, there may be a reason for that. There is a connector in the wheel well area right here on the right side of the front tire area that has a tendency to get moisture intrusion in it. Where it's located, it's possible for water to get up in there. So one thing I'm going to show you is how to access that area, inspect the connector, and fix it if you need to, and then put everything back into place. In fact, there may be multiple connectors in that area that may need to be looked at, but I'll show you the first one that is recommended to check out. So I'm going to start with showing you what you're going to need for this project. So let's get started. Here are the items we're going to be needing today for this project. I recommend a set of work gloves, a wrench with an 8mm socket or 5/16" socket. Either one of these will work fine. A plastic pry bar or a trim removal tool. A can of compressed air. Another can. This is QD electronic cleaner. Dielectric grease. And also a stretch and seal. This is a self-fusing silicone tape, and we're going to be using this for making sure that the area stays waterproof around the wiring and connectors. Now let's go out to the car and check it out. To make this easier, go inside the car and turn the steering wheel all the way to the left so that it will move that front tire so you can access the area more easily. Okay, we are by the right front wheel, and we have the area right here that we need to remove a couple of bolts and trim clips. I am going to start that right now. Going to use the 8mm socket, and I'm going to take these guys out. All right, one done. Now for the next one. Now for the two trim clips down here, we're going to put the trim tool remover in and pop out the top area and then go underneath and get the rest of it out. And do the same for this one. Pop it out and then take the whole clip out. Now we'll have access to this area. It may be a little bit dusty in here. We're going to move the inner lining here from the wheel well. We're going to push it out of its position here, and it will come out. It's just wedged underneath. Maybe a little dusty. Then you fold this behind the tire. Don't worry, it's pretty flexible. Now that this is out of the way, you'll see that there's a connector right here, this gray connector, and that's the one we're going to be looking at. However, there are other connectors in here that may be affected by moisture intrusion. There is one more back here, further down. There's another black connector. I'm going to see if I can move this back far enough so you can see it. Yep. So back there is another connector that you may want to check out and make sure that there's no corrosion on it, oxidation. So FYI. I'm going to use some compressed air to clean out this area. To detach the connector, we're going to pull this out on the ends. So this will pop out like so. And once this is popped out, you can press down on this tab, and that should separate the connector. So I'm going to press down and remove it. I'm going to hold this up here so you can see it better. So I'm going to press down on the tab right here. And then I'm going to pull on the connector. All right, and then it should come all the way out. Here's a close-up look. Yeah, there is some dirt in this area, but I don't see any indication of oxidation. Let me look at the other side of the connector. Yeah, I don't see any problems with this connector. So one thing I suggest using, if everything is good, is to place the dielectric grease, a small amount of it, on the part here. And you can also put a little bit on the actual pins, so that this area here, when they're connected, no water can get into where those two pieces meet up. If you do have some corrosion, I recommend using the cleaner that I have right here. Spray a little bit of this on, and then using a toothbrush or a pipe cleaner with brass bristles, you can clean that area up and get rid of any of the oxidation. And then you can use the dielectric grease in that area between those two. I've also heard recommendations on just general automotive forums that the dielectric grease is probably also good to put in other areas, such as the back where these wires go into the connector itself. It's probably not a bad idea to put some dielectric grease on the back of this. And then if you can, cover the whole area here, cover all the wires and the connectors. I am going to be using some silicone tape for that. And the nice thing about the tape is that it makes a water seal bond, and you can remove it if necessary. So yeah, that's the plan for right now. So if you do open up this area of the car and look at this connector, I do recommend doing that to make sure you don't have any oxidation inside the connector that may lead to problems with your vehicle. In any case, I am going to spray the inside of the connectors here just to make sure there's nothing gunk in there. All right. And also in the other connector. Now, if you don't feel comfortable using the dielectric grease, by all means, go to a service tech or auto shop that can do this for you. I'm sure there's probably local auto shops in your area that you trust that work on anything that's electrical in the car. If you explain this issue, I'm sure that they can do this for you and apply and clean the area. So that's also a suggestion. If you're not comfortable doing this sort of thing yourself, you can also bring it into a local. It doesn't even have to be a specialized Fisker repair area, because this is a connector that these are common in a lot of vehicles. Unfortunately, the design of these particular connectors is not very robust because they're not keeping out moisture and dirt like they should be. So unfortunately, these are not very good connectors. I'm not sure, maybe every year or two have these checked out to make sure that they are clean and that there's nothing getting inside there. However, I think if you do apply the dielectric grease, I think they will stay pretty protected for a while. So at least that's what I'm hoping by doing this to my car. So I'm going to take a small amount of the paste. Make sure you're using like gloves because you don't want to do this on your bare hands. And then you can just apply a thin coat to this right here. And also, if you want, apply it to the pins on this connector. However, I think this should be good enough. I'm going to put a little bit more on here. And cover this whole area. And then when you're ready, you will then connect the two ends, the male and the female, together. You will push it all the way in. You will hear it snap into place. Once that's done, you can press the little button on the outside so that it is flush with the top of this section right here. So now this is firmly connected. Here's what that silicone tape looks like. What you would do is you would start wrapping this around the wiring right here and then go all the way around the connector and then all the way to this end. I'm not going to be doing it right now since I also want to do some other tests, but you could do that. You could apply, and what you do with this silicone tape is you stretch it. By stretching it out, that activates the adhesion. So when you wrap it around itself, it will make a watertight seal. And I think it's a good idea to start with the wiring where it comes out of the harness here, and then go all the way around, wrap it around the whole adapter here, this whole connector, and then go all the way to this side. Of course, this is just my suggestion. If you have any alternate ways of waterproofing this adapter or connector here, by all means do that and let me know in the comments section below if you have any other ideas for keeping this watertight. As I mentioned, there's another connector that's further in there. I'm not going to be doing it in this video because it's hard to show the camera in there, but you would do the same process. You would detach the connector ends and then inspect the inside and make sure that there's no oxidation on the pins or on the receiving end of the connector. And then you would clean it up, apply some dielectric grease, and then put the connectors back together again. And so when you're done with this whole area, you can just fold the fabric back down, gently peel it back from behind the tire, and if you notice that these little metal clips here, make sure these stay in place because those are going to be needed for attaching the bolts. So I will fold this inside here. This one gets folded inside too. You can either do the trim clips. I think it's probably a better idea to do the bolts first. So I suggest using the bolts first. So you would line that up with the area underneath it. And then you're going to start screwing those back and make sure that it's tight. All right, and then do that for the upper one. All right, so we got the two bolts in. Now we're going to take the trim clips and insert them into the openings. This one is really easy. This one you're going to have to aim to make sure that it goes inside the hole that's underneath the fabric. There it goes. I got it right now. And then what you do is You take the tool, either the pry bar or this tool, and then press in, and it will lock into place. Same with this one. Sometimes you need to put a little pressure on it to make sure that it goes all the way in. There you go. So now these are firmly attached, and this area is good to go. So that wraps up my video today. A quick check on the front right connectors that are right by the wheel there, right inside that wheel well. If you do have issues with your car where there are some problems that you just can't quite figure out, and also if you have issues with the turn signals not working on the vehicle, along with any other lighting issues, there's a good chance that you may have an issue with this connector right here. So popping it open, accessing it, open up that connector, and make sure that there's no oxidation in there. If there is, use some canned air to blow anything out of there, like debris, and then use some of that cleaner that I showed you. Clean that area up. You can use a toothbrush with it, or maybe a bristled pipe cleaner. Get that area all nice and clean. Maybe blow it out again, and then use the dielectric grease on it, at least on one side of the connector, so that when you put both sides of the connector together, there'll be some protection against moisture intrusion on those connections. So I recommend either doing this yourself. It's a quick check. And if you don't feel comfortable with that, maybe take it to a local auto shop that works on electrical. I'm sure if you have one that you rely on for your other vehicles, they should be able to do this for you too, because nothing really in this connector is that unusual. There are other cars that have the connectors exposed and wiring harnesses exposed and can get moisture in them. However, most other cars that I know of use more robust connectors. From what I've heard on the message boards is that these connectors are not very good at keeping moisture and debris out of the area where those wires need to connect. And yeah, so that's it. So if you can't do it yourself, and in my case, I didn't have any oxidation at all, so I just did a quick blowout of the area. I used some canned air to clean out anything that was in there, and then I just did a thin film of the dielectric grease in between on one side of the connector, attach the connector, put the clip back in so that it is fully attached, and then put everything back in. If you have any questions or comments or any improvements to the method that I just showed you, please let me know in the comments section below. I am not perfect, and I'm always willing to learn new things. So if there's a better way of doing this, please let me know. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.